Welcome everyone! Today I will show you a very exciting attacking game by the legend Alexey Shirov. This was played in Reykjavik in 1992 and he's playing Icelandic Grandmaster Throstur Thorhallson. The game opened with d4, d5, c4, c6, and after knight c3, knight f6, knight to f3 and e6 we have the Semi-Slav Defense, e3, knight from b to d7, queen to c2, white is avoiding the Moran variation with bishop to d3, bishop to d6, putting the bishop on its best diagonal, and now for the first time ever, white here played g4. Super aggressive move, obviously planning g5, and well, this type of aggression is quite typical of Shirov. In Fire on Board, Shirov actually talks a little about the origin of this move. Quote, "This game introduces a novelty which should probably be called the Shirov Gambit. As I remember, Shaba expressed the idea first, although it occurred to us almost simultaneously while we were listening to pop music and lazily moving the pieces around." Nice little detail there shared by Shirov. Anyway, black here castled, and that was certainly a mistake, because now white just gets a strong initiative and he doesn't even have to sacrifice the pawn anymore. A lot more common in this position is to just stop g5 with h6, and then play usually continues rook to g1, still planning g5, e5, black's going for counterplay in the center, then white trades on d5 in order to play knight to b5, and white will still try to play g5 but also get play on the queen side. So that's one way of playing, and another way is to just accept the pawn. So knight takes g4, and then we'll follow rook to g1, eyeing black's g-pawn, and after knight takes h2, knight takes, bishop takes, rook takes g7, we have another interesting position where white will play on the king side but also in the center with an eventual e3, e4. None of that happened though. As I said, after g4, black castled, and white just played g5. Black didn't stop the threat, so Shirov played it. Knight to h5, bishop to d2, planning to castle on the queen side, f5, so black would like to open the position before the white king is safe, but also if white decides to take the pawn, then the knight will come back into the game. Now white did take, knight takes, and knight to g5, attacking the e-pawn, but together with the queen it's also eyeing h7. Queen to e8, defending the pawn. Castles. Here black played h6, trying to kick away the knight, but then came h4. So Shirov doesn't actually move the knight, but he doesn't really have to. If black does take the knight here, pawn takes, then after knight to e4, takes, pawn takes, and queen e4, now the queen may switch to the h-file, follow up with bishop to d3, which is very dangerous. Rook to f5, just blocking out the queen for now. But then there's the little pawn move c5, which attacks the bishop, and when the bishop goes away, there is bishop to c4, and white will just have a winning attack in that case. So that's why after h4, black played bishop to b4, planning to take the knight on c3, and then taking the knight on g5 will be possible, because after white recaptures and plays knight to e4, white will have to trade his light squared bishop for it if he ever wants to get rid of that knight. Bishop to d3, already covering e4, and after bishop takes knight, bishop takes, pawn takes knight, pawn takes, and knight to e4, now it's clear that white has to give up his strong bishop to lose his knight, which is what happened. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and queen takes e4. But even without the bishop, it's clear that white still has all the fun. He has two pawns for the piece, and he can also attack the black king. Rook to f5, queen to h4, with obvious plans to attack the king. Queen to g6, keeping an eye on the pawn for now. Queen h8 check, king to f7, And now white has a big threat. He wants to play queen to d8 and rook to h8, which will be a winning attack. But first he has to play f4. He cannot go queen d8 right away, because if he does queen d8, then black just takes the pawn on g5, and black can trade queens and the attack is over. So therefore, after king to f7, f4 to guard that pawn first, knight to f8 blocking out the queen, queen to h4. Now white is planning e4, which would win the rook. That's why king to e8, giving the rook an escape square, e4 anyway, rook to f7, and now rook from h to e1. Another nice move. Now white threatens f5, and after black's queen goes to h7, white will trade on h7 and play g6, which would fork the rook and the knight. And also, now that the rook is on e1, after white plays f5, black really can't take back with the pawn, because then white will take back with the pawn with check and then lose the queen. That's why king to d8 diffuses the threat for now. But now came d5. The king is opposite the other rook now, so another wave of attack is still possible. Black took the pawn, cd5, bishop to d7, shielding the king. But the attack just continues. Shirov played f5, and after takes, e5, intending to fork the pieces with e6. f4, black is actually losing already at this point, but with this move at least he gets some counterplay. Well, as planned, white played e6, bishop to a4, so black actually escapes the fork because after rook to d2, he still has rook to f5, saving the rook. And now the rook is saved, but unfortunately not the game. White played queen to f2, now he wants to play queen to c5, and together with the pawns and the support of the rooks, there will be a winning attack. Black played f3, and now surprisingly, Shirov actually played something else. He went for rook to e4, and he wrote that he wanted to complicate the game some more, but if he had gone for his original plan, queen to c5, he would have just won. So if queen to c5, and let's say black tried f2, now white just wins with e7 check, king to d7, pawn takes, promoting to a knight with check, forking the king and the queen, and if black just takes that knight, rook takes f8, then it's just a mating 2 after rook e7 check, king to d8, queen c7 checkmate. And if black doesn't take the knight, king to d8, then white just captures on f2, and now he has an extra piece and an attack on the black king, also clearly losing. But as mentioned, after f3, Shirov went for this rook e4 move. Now black captured on g5, so he sacrifices the bishop in order to get some counterplay. Shirov captured the bishop, check, rook to d1, and now black tried rook to g2, but unfortunately white is now clearly winning again. He played queen h4 check, king to e8, rook to e4, that stops the mate on c2, rook to c8 was played, and after d6, in time pressure, unfortunately black just blundered here. He went rook to d8, and Shirov played queen e7 checkmate. Now white was already completely winning, so in that sense the blunder didn't really change anything, and still full credit to Shirov for this great attacking game. I hope you also enjoyed the game and of course Shirov's novelty with g4. Thank you for watching Chess Student and take care.